Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rotten Egg Stories channel. Today I'm diving into a Reddit story that's so relatable it might just tug at your heartstrings. It's about love, trust, and those tricky gray areas in relationships. If you've ever wondered whether to draw boundaries or let things slide, this one's for you. Let's get into it. Our story today comes from a woman who's unsure if it's time to set boundaries with her boyfriend and his new coworker. Here's the gist. She and her boyfriend have a strong, loving relationship. They've been best friends for years and even moved states to be together. But things took a turn when he started mentioning a new coworker, Liz, a little too often. Fast forward, and Liz is now living in their building. They're carpooling, and her boyfriend's keeping certain interactions private. Our storyteller is trying to navigate whether she's overthinking or if it's time to step in. Let's break this down. I'm 28F, unsure if it's time to draw boundaries with my boyfriend. 28M, and his coworker, late 20s. Fao, who he got close to very quickly. Apologies for the length, I'm going to be very thorough, and also a lot has happened in a very short amount of time. First, some background and the good stuff. I have been best friends with my boyfriend since 2013. We even lived together during graduate school for 2 years before we started dating. We started dating in 2016, when we were roommates, so we've been together for about 2.5 years now and have lived together for a lot of that time. We did a brief stint of long distance when we got jobs in different locations after school. In January of this year, he moved states to be with me, and I still can't get over how amazing that was of him. We are now living together again in our own apartment, and we couldn't be happier. He is my best friend, and absolutely the person I plan to spend the rest of my life with. He's smart, funny, an absolute sweetheart, and a romantic, and he makes me feel so loved every day. We have talked about our future many times and am anticipating a proposal in the near future. Also, he has had many female friends during our time together, and this has never bothered me. I'm rarely the jealous type. He's hung out one-on-one with girls before, and I had no complaints. There has been one girl I told him I was uncomfortable with, and he stopped hanging out with her. But that was for a lot of reasons, and not just because she's a girl. So, on to the recent issue. After moving to my state, he had to pass a couple of tests in our field before he could start working. He did so and was able to secure a job in early June. He likes his new job so far, and generally likes and gets along with his coworkers, but he hadn't really made any real friends yet. He's hung out with my coworkers, sort of friends too. I'm also pretty new to the area, and likes them as well, but no one he would hang out with one-on-one. I know he is missing having a group of friends back in his home state where he moved from. About a month ago, maybe a little more, he started mentioning one coworker a lot. We'll call her Liz. At first, it was just in passing. Oh, my coworker Liz said this or that. It also turns out Liz used to work with an organization that works closely with my organization, so she knows a lot of people that I work with, and what's going on with my job and field of work. So it was a small world kind of thing. She would mention someone I knew, or something about my job, and he would tell her he also knew that person because of me. That kind of thing. But he started talking about her more and more often. I'm talking probably every single day over for a few weeks he would have a story about Liz or something that she said, so I knew they were talking or hanging out at work a lot. He did say that Liz mentioned she wanted to meet me, and she has a fiancé that she lives with. So that made me feel good. Nothing to worry about, and I was happy he was making a friend here. Liz actually lived nearby us, in a temporary place because they were moving around for her fiancé's job. So a couple of weeks ago, he tells me that Liz suggested they start carpooling to work together. Their office is about 30 minutes away without traffic, but our city always has traffic, so it's more like 45 minutes each way most days. Honestly, this made me a little uncomfortable, since this meant they would be spending 1 to 1.5 hours alone together in the car every time they rode together. But I didn't say anything because they wouldn't be carpooling every day. Some days they work in the office, and other days they work on projects around town, so this would only be days when they both go into the office, maybe 2 to 3 days a week. Besides, he only mentioned it in passing as an idea at first. A few days later, as he was headed out the door, he said, "Okay, I'm going to go pick up Liz and head into work." I was surprised because he never told me they decided to definitely start carpooling together, but it obviously wasn't a big deal. He has never mentioned it again, so as far as I know, that's the only day they've ridden together. It hasn't been an ongoing thing. I was fine with this. Things started intensifying quickly last week, though. As I mentioned, Liz and her fiancé were in a temporary place before, so they decided to start looking for a permanent apartment. My boyfriend casually mentioned to me one day last week that they were actually interested in our building, and that they wanted to come see it the next day. This came out of left field to me. Our building is very nice, it's a luxury building in a good area downtown, but there are also tons of similar buildings in the area. But I figured they were just checking out all kinds of places, and ours was probably one of many on the list. So late last week, they came by our building for a tour. I actually saw them briefly on the elevator, and we met for the first time, but they were being given a tour by management, so we didn't hang out. Well, later that night, Liz texted my boyfriend that they decided to rent in our building. I honestly didn't know what to say because I wasn't thrilled. I felt like now they will definitely want to start carpooling together every day they can, and they will start becoming even closer. My boyfriend was obviously very happy about it when he told me. I just kind of asked if they were looking at any other places and why they weren't looking any closer to where she and my boyfriend work. And he said they just really liked this building, and her fiancé works more closely to our area, so it works for them to live here. Obviously, there was nothing I could say. So I just said cool. Ever since then, I feel like they have already been talking more and more. They text and have called each other a couple of times. To be fair, as far as I know, it has all been either work or apartment related. But I also don't really see his phone and have no idea how much they actually talk. A couple of final things prompted me to write this post. Up until now, I wasn't thrilled about all of this, but could deal with it. This weekend, we traveled to visit my family for the holiday weekend. Yesterday, during a family lunch, he got up and went into the other room with his phone for a few minutes. When he came back, I asked, "Where'd you go?" And he just said, "I was getting a phone call." Later, I asked who was calling him at lunch. He said it was Liz with a few questions because they were moving in at the time. This slightly bothered me because I feel like if I hadn't asked, he wasn't planning to tell me it was Liz who called. He went back to our city last night while I am staying in my hometown with my family for a couple of extra days. While driving him to the airport, I got a random thought, so I asked, "You're just going to take an Uber back home, right?" That's how we got to the airport. He kind of hesitated and then said, "I was actually going to see if maybe Liz could pick me up so I don't have to spend money on an Uber." Yet again, I felt like he never would have mentioned this to me if I hadn't asked. Also, we live close to the airport, so an Uber is not expensive, and he makes good money. I reminded him that Liz and her fiancé were moving that day and probably did not want to come pick him up at the airport. I would have said this for anyone. Moving sucks. And he thought about it and agreed. He didn't end up asking her. I don't know what to do from here. On one hand, I am genuinely glad he's making a friend. There are no red flags so far. Things seem 100% platonic. Plus, she has a fiancé, so we could all be couple friends. On the other hand, he seems to be getting really close to her really quickly. He talks about her constantly, a lot more than I explained in this post. They are probably going to be riding together often, and I feel like he is starting to, unconsciously or not, kind of hide some interactions with her from me. Is it time to set boundaries? If so, what would reasonable boundaries even be? Is carpooling together too much? Is it okay for them to hang out alone together outside of work? I have no idea. And I've never been in this situation before. I don't know how to talk to him about this. I just feel like we need to have a talk now that she is living in our building. But maybe I should wait and see if things escalate. Now, let's look at the top 3 comments from the thread. These are packed with insight. First comment by Welthin9876. Have them over for dinner or something. I would have done this a long time ago when he started talking about her a lot. Especially if they were going to carpool and move into your apartment complex. Something longer than just saying hi. See what she's like and her fiancé is like. See how everyone interacts with each other. You'll know then for sure. If it's a bad situation, it'll be super weird and obvious. Then I would talk to him if it is a bad situation. Tell him all of what you're uncomfortable with. Just know that moving is hard and you make new friends with anyone you connect with. Work is a main place to make friends. It could be just fine. The problem now is she lives in your apartment complex, so they're 100% going to get closer and you might get stuck hearing about her no matter which way this all plays out. He should respect you enough to back off a little with her if you express that you're uncomfortable. That's respect in a relationship. If you introduce him to more people, it may help. Such a good point. Sometimes seeing how people interact in a group setting tells you everything you need to know. Second comment by Changer of Bits. The biggest concern to me is that they haven't gotten you and Liz's fiancé together for a double date or something, where you all could meet. It sounds like you and Liz have a lot of common work contacts, and would have things to talk about at the very least. You met her while her and her fiancé were viewing the building? That's super awkward. And at the best, your BF dropped the social ball here. At worst, he's avoiding you and Liz spending time together. Sure, Liz is his friend. They work together and all that jazz, and he doesn't have to include you with everything. But right now, he's including you on practically nothing. That would make me worried. I think you need to talk to him about how you're feeling. Like, don't go into it talking about boundaries, or insinuating that more is going on between them than just friends, but rather how you've been feeling about the situation. It's perfectly fine to have these feelings and to let him know, and it's much better than letting these feelings boil and waiting on something bad to happen. He's your partner. He deserves to know if something is upsetting you, and that's really the only way you two can figure out a way forward that you're both comfortable with. Absolutely. Feelings aren't wrong. They're signals. Talking about them before they fester is so important. Third comment by Lady Ocelot. Once you start leaving the room for a call and not volunteering who it was, it's an issue. And I don't doubt he clearly wasn't going to volunteer that Liz would pick him up. Also not a fan of his positioning, acting like he might ask when you know it's planned. Address it. It's close, fast, and those two instances reflect that he's aware of the optics of this at the very least. He is becoming aware that the closeness could appear problematic. That's where he has to end it. He doesn't wait around. He cools it. It's a lot, it's fast, and he is omitting info that should be volunteered. He's gotta watch it. This hit hard. When people start hiding things, even unintentionally, it can erode trust. Now, here's my take. First, I want to acknowledge how vulnerable and brave the original poster is for sharing this. Navigating relationships isn't easy, especially when emotions like trust and insecurity are involved. It's clear she deeply values her boyfriend and the life they've built together, and that's a testament to the strength of their bond. Here's the thing. Boundaries aren't about controlling someone. They're about protecting your peace and creating space where both partners can thrive. Feeling uneasy in a situation doesn't mean you're overreacting. It means your instincts are picking up on something that needs attention. It's not about assigning blame. It's about understanding and communication. You might approach it by saying, I've noticed you and Liz have gotten close, and while I trust you, some of these interactions have made me feel a little uneasy. Can we talk about it together? The goal here is not to accuse, but to open a dialogue. This isn't about Liz at all. It's about how you and your boyfriend handle challenges together. Every relationship will face moments of discomfort or doubt, but the way you approach them defines your partnership. If he's truly your partner for life, he'll understand that your feelings matter, and that finding a solution together is part of building a stronger bond. Also, don't underestimate the power of bringing people together. Meeting Liz and her fiancé in a social setting can shift perspectives. Transparency builds trust, and seeing her as part of a group dynamic might help ease some of these feelings, or give you clarity if something isn't sitting right. Either way, you're gathering information in a way that supports your relationship rather than undermines it. So, what's the takeaway? Relationships require communication, trust, and a willingness to listen. If something feels off, don't ignore it. Speak up, kindly but confidently. And remember, you're not asking for perfection. You're asking for respect and reassurance. Thanks for tuning in today. If you've been in a similar situation, I'd love to hear how you handled it. Drop a comment below and let's keep this conversation going. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next one.